What's going on, Jets fans? Welcome back to another video here on Pig City Hockey. And today we're going to be talking about a developing story that has come out earlier this week and is really intriguing to me because, as we all know, Kevin Cheveldayoff has been extremely quiet this offseason. Free agency, really not even a peep. Colin Miller re-signs, they bring back Eric Comrie, and they sign Kaapo Kähkönen. Big whoop. At the end of the day, that's not going to be the move that, makes this team a Stanley Cup contender and makes them better from where they were last year. So we know something's coming, but it seems like the Winnipeg Jets and Martin Necas for the longest time had been linked for a while. It seemed like Nikolai Ehlers was heavily interested. It was the big guy that the Canes wanted, and it seemed like all the rumors all offseason were linking Winnipeg and Carolina with the Nikolai Ehlers trade, and probably with Martin Necas going the other way. But with him signing that $2 million, 2-year, $6.5 million contract, I don't think this forward's going anywhere. He had 53 points last year, 77 games played. He's now signed to that 2-year contract. He's a crucial player for Carolina who plays in their top 6, is reliable, is pretty consistent, I might add as well. He's pretty young too, entering a prime, 25 years old, so he's got a lot of, potential to still really grow his game next season or the next couple seasons. And he's a really good forward. And you look at his career with Carolina, he's only gotten better. Obviously, this year was a bit of a step back, but he was injured for a few games, so he didn't have as many points as he did last year, but he's still a very good player. And at the end of the day, I thought that this trade, kind of made sense for the Jets, a good player to look at, but, Nikolai Ehlers is underrated as hell. So if Nikolai Ehlers is the guy that you're giving up in a trade like this, I don't necessarily see it as, the best return value. It kind of reminds me of the Jacob Trouba, Neil Pionk swap at the time. You're taking a guy on a down year, that's not that well liked by the team and hoping he can work out for you while you're giving up, obviously, the better player. So I'm glad that trade didn't work out. And like I said, Ehlers is one of the most underrated players in the NHL and is extremely underrated within this franchise and within the fan base, in my opinion, as well. And I know there's some big Ehlers fans out there, but the fact that Ehlers wasn't the guy, apparently, that Carolina wanted it, and it was Cole Perfetti, kind of blew my mind. I first saw the story breaking on Twitter earlier this week through a kind of like just someone sharing their thoughts on what they heard in the Frank Saravelli's podcast about how the Jets had apparently offered Rutger McGroarty, Cole Perfetti, and a pick for Necas, but the deal never went through. And I was just like, that's got to be fake, right? And I did a bit more research, and wouldn't you know, we see Jim Parsons writing about it for NHL Trade Rumors, and, I'm like, okay, this must have some real traction, this must be a real quote, and it turns out that it was, and I was kind of blown away because I didn't think that Cole Perfetti would be the guy that, Carolina would be wanting, and I know that the Winnipeg Jets didn't really play him a lot last year, at the end of the year, so to not trade him for a guy like that, the whole situation was just kind of, whoa, because this trade seemed crazy to me that they offered Cole Perfetti, McGroarty, and a pick to bring in Martin Necas, but as we're seeing right here, apparently the deal didn't go through because Necas was, reluctant to sign a long-term extension with the Winnipeg Jets. Take a listen to this clip right here of Frank Saravelli talking about it on his podcast.
There was another deal, I think, on the table. I don't know how seriously Carolina considered it, but I believe it was Winnipeg. And I think Winnipeg offered...
Ehlers?
Nope. I think they offered Rutger McGroarty, Cole Perfetti, and some pick. I think it was some combination, if I have that correct. Perfetti, McGroarty, and a pick from Marty Necas, and that wasn't getting it done either. Either didn't get it done, or that wasn't a place he was going to sign. So it's been, needless to say, it's been challenging for the Hurricanes to get something done with Necas.
Like, that's crazy to hear that, McGroarty and Ehlers already is a crazy package for Necas. And if he even wouldn't sign here, he wouldn't sign here. That's at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's not, it's not earth-crushing news, but at the end of the day, it just didn't work out. But having Cole Perfetti be the guy that apparently they offer is a bit more interesting. If they're shopping Cole Perfetti, that blows my mind. Rutger McGroarty, we make sense. We all know how good he is. We all know what he's done with university, winning the gold medal with team captain of USA. He's really, really good. We know he's one of the top prospects in the system, and we know that he's unhappy with Winnipeg right now. That's been the number one headline for the offseason pretty much all year long for Winnipeg, is Rutger McGroarty does not want to come to Winnipeg. He skipped training camp. He was going to get moved to the draft, it looked like, and it didn't come through. And he's just been talked about pretty much since the end of the playoffs about being that guy that's going to get moved. And for him to not be traded in this deal, to me was shocking because, again, we saw this guy at training camp last year. We saw how good he was. And then, obviously, we go into this offseason. He has nothing to do with the Winnipeg Jets anymore. And, the Jets are trying to actively shop him, and they haven't done anything with him yet. And I wonder how bad his value has tanked because this seems like a good trade to me. And I'm not saying that I want to see the Jets trade Cole Perfetti. I still believe in Cole Perfetti. I think he's going to be a very good NHL player, and I think that the Jets have, again, kind of like Nikolai to an extent, have, really underrated him and not given him the best opportunities to flourish at times, regardless of his struggles. Because Cole Perfetti is a really good player, and we've seen that, the 38 points this year in 71 games. He was scratched for a lot of that at the end of the year. He definitely had that pointless streak that was rough, but he's improved in points. He's gotten better in goal totals. 75 points in 140 career NHL games is not bad at all. Like, this is a guy that is a very young player still with a lot of potential. I don't think moving on from him right now, when he was rumored to also be interested in signing a long-term extension potentially, is the right bet. And this whole situation was just crazy to see. Because, again, Ehlers was the one we all thought was the one linked to Carolina for a Martin Necas deal. But Cole Perfetti being the one that the Jets offer, was really weird and shocking. And then we got Scott Billett coming out yesterday saying that ultimately that trade, never happened. That the Jets didn't want to trade Perfetti. The Jets didn't offer Perfetti. Perfetti was who Carolina was interested in. And at the same time, Martin Necas wouldn't sign here. So there were a lot of other moving elements to this, rejected trade than was initially reported by Frank Saravelli, which makes a lot more sense to me because, if the Jets don't want to trade, I don't see the Jets wanting to trade Cole Perfetti. And I think that the Carolina Hurricanes see the value in Cole Perfetti, so they tried to get Cole Perfetti, take Rutger McGroarty in the pick, and then give up Martin Necas, who they knew wouldn't be guys interested in signing in Winnipeg long term. Obviously, Winnipeg was able to have that conversation with his agent. And at the end of the day, if you got a guy like Perfetti, young player who is only going to get better, who wants to sign long-term versus a guy like Martin Necas who would maybe be able to get a 2-year bridge deal out of, I don't know if that's necessarily the right move for the club. I think Cole Perfetti will be extremely, important and impactful for this club next year. So I think that, this whole situation was interesting, and I'm glad that it went the way it did, and the Jets held on to Cole Perfetti because he's going to be an important part of this club moving forward. I genuinely believe that. I'm a big fan of Cole Perfetti, and I believe it. This trade seemed fair, too. So I'm not one of those guys coming out saying, "Oh, Cole Perfetti is, all this. He's so over, like the blah blah blah, all this crap that we see on Twitter." To me, this trade made sense. It just, at the end of the day, Necas wasn't going to sign long term, and the Jets didn't want to give up Perfetti because they believe in Perfetti, and they were probably looking to move on from a guy that won't sign here, maybe an Ehlers. We'll have to see. A lot of rumors. So make sure to subscribe to stay updated with all things Winnipeg Jets hockey. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Check out all the affiliate links down in the description below. Peace and positivity as always. Go Jets, go! And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.